Hey everybody, hope you had a wonderful, calm, relaxing spring break and are ready for part two of the semester, the post-spring break part. So today I want to introduce you to something entirely new we haven't talked about, but that can really make your workflow much more fluid and interesting. It's almost like doodling on paper when you get the hang of it. And this is something called ZSpheres. And Z-spheres are kind of like an armature that you can build. And once you're done building it, or really any time in the process, you can skin it. You're basically going to cover that armature with a skin and of polygons, and then you draw that into your scene or drag it into your scene, and then you can sculpt on it like a normal, everything else you've been doing up to now. And because it's really useful for creating anything organic that has some sort of symmetry with it. And if you go to the Lightbox, you can see what the people at ZBrush have done with these things. And I'll just pick something at random here. Let's do okay, we'll do a beagle. There you go. Okay, so this is a thing made up of Z-spheres. Okay, now this is not exactly the kind of thing you're going to be doing. These are actually called mannequins that are different. They actually have pieces of geometry attached to the Z-spheres, and that'll make more sense in a moment. But the idea with Z-spheres is that you can move them around and scale them and rotate them and the like, and then you hit the A key to preview what this would look like if it were a mesh. Okay, so if I hit A here, you'll see these. This is not how yours is going to look, but just bear with me. This has something called connecting spheres on it and connecting geometry, which we're not going to do. It's a little more complicated. They do this just to make these things look more real and to just provide you with what they call their Zizu. There are also a number of these in the regular projects folder here. If you go to mannequin over here, and you'll see that they have things like hands, a frog, different things. Again, these are a little bit different than what we're going to do, but they are made of the same raw material, basically, which is the Z-sphere. Okay, so I will get rid of this, and I'm just going to show you how you start. So you go to the tool palette over here, click on this, and you choose Z-sphere. Okay, and what that does is it puts a single Z-sphere into your scene. Okay, now what's really important when you're working with Z-spheres, number one, it's really easier to do this with a mouse than it is a pen or a tablet. Okay, once you convert it into a polygon mesh, then you can start working with your pen again. But for actually working with these things, I find it's just easier to manipulate them by using a mouse. Okay, the big thing you have to remember when you do this is you need to turn your draw size way down. I suggest going all the way down to 1. Okay, if you don't do that, you're going to be picking up more of these than you want, and it's going to kind of screw things up for you. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on this, and you'll see top of this is dark and the bottom is light. Okay, and this is kind of how it's just going to come into your scene. So it essentially has two halves. Okay, and if I turn on symmetry, which I want to have on here, I'm just going to use X symmetry. Okay, and I go to my top view here, you can kind of see where this is. Okay, in terms of where these two green dots are, those indicate where the symmetry is. And if I go to the middle, those things are going to kind of snap together into one, and that means you're at the top. Okay, so if I do it from this view and just click here, that will be okay. So what I'm in draw mode. Okay, and this comes in active already. Okay, and I'm just going to click and drag on this, and this is what I'm doing is I'm creating a Z-sphere that's linked to the original Z-sphere down here. Okay. So far, so good. Makes sense. And these are just like anything else. You just can do things with them and move them around, just like we do other stuff. Okay, if I hold down Shift, it draws it out exactly the same size as the original one. Okay. Now, you'll see, because I was doing this from the side, this came up with 2 of these rather than 1. Okay. Now, I could use that if I wanted to. I could move this around. Okay. I'm just going to undo that and go back here to this view. So I wasn't in my front view when I drew this. Okay. So it was a little difficult for me to see what actually happened there. Okay, but now that I'm in the front view, I just have 1 of these. And it's kind of hard to see, but I'm actually rotating it around. If you look at the little head up in the upper right there, you can kind of see that. Okay, and I'm going to get the move tool here, and the shortcut for that is W. Okay, these are just the top keys on the keyboard. Q is draw, okay, W is move, scale is E, and rotate is R. Okay, so just kind of get used to that. It's right next to the tab key, Q, W, E, R. Okay, and move is what I'm going to do to just kind of move this into center here. Okay, and the toughest thing about ZSpheres is trying to maintain symmetry, and it's not the end of the world if you can't. It's okay, no big deal. Okay, so remember I said if you hit the A key, you can actually preview what this thing would look like. Okay, so if I hit A like that, this is what this looks like. Lovely, huh? Okay, but this is actually important to see, because the reason this is looking like this is because, if I hit A again, it'll turn that off. I don't have the bottom of this Z-sphere containing another Z-sphere. If I put another one down here, okay, like this, oops, I got to get back to draw mode, sorry. Like that, just drag another one out here like that, okay. I have 2, it's like Humpty Dumpty, okay. You're probably asking yourself, why in God's name would I do this? This sounds so complicated. It's really not that bad. Now if I hit A, it actually looks kind of like what my Z-spheres look like. Okay, so point is, A is just toggling that on and off. And this is a preview of the mesh. Okay, if you actually want to turn this into a mesh, you'll see if I hit A, this shows up as preview over on the right here. Okay, if I actually want this to be a mesh, I can click Make Adaptive Skin. Okay, if I do that, it actually makes the skin and puts it into my scene right here. Okay, and then I could take this and I could sculpt with it. Okay, I could make a bigger draw size here and actually start to do something with it. Okay, I could smooth it, I could do different things. Okay, so kind of see where this is heading. I don't really need that, I'll just get rid of that. I'm just going to click back on my Z-sphere here. Okay, hit the F key to frame it. All right, and again, what I'm often doing here is just kind of moving back and forth. I want my draw size to be absolutely tiny. Just kind of send that off like that, like so. Okay. All right. So what else can you do with this? Well, once you've got a couple Z-spheres in here, okay, you can use the existing Z-spheres to make additional ones. Okay. How do you do that? So if I take this and just move this guy out a little bit, you'll see how it kind of makes this triangular connecting shape. Okay, and remember I said if you hit shift when you're drawing these, you can resize them. Okay, you can also resize them on your own by using the scale here. Okay, so if I click and drag on this up or down, I can make that bigger or smaller. Okay, if I take this guy and move it, as I said, out further like this, I can use the draw tool here to just click on these, and that turns them into a new Z-sphere. Okay, that's called a link sphere. They're linking these other ones together. And by doing that, I could then take this guy and scale it up or down. Okay, like so. And I can do that as often as I like. Okay, I can do, more and more of these like that. And I could move them around. Okay, I could drag them out like that, move this thing somewhere else like this, pull this thing out, okay, bring it to the front like that. Okay, I can do some more of these now that I have my symmetry established here, like this. Okay, move these guys out, move this guy out, maybe draw a couple new ones in the middle or towards the edge here, like that. And I'm going to do this fast because I just wanted you to get the idea that this can happen really, really quickly. Okay, you can do this stuff really fast, which is really neat. I think it's really very cool. Okay, like so. Pull that around like that. Move that out a bit more. Rescale this one down. Okay, move this out. And again, I can just make more of these by clicking on these and then, do something with them. I don't know what I'm making here. It doesn't really matter. Okay. There. Like that. Lovely. It's like some sort of weird flying thing at this point. Okay. And when I said you can kind of doodle with this, that's what I mean, because I didn't really have anything deliberate happening here. Okay. I'm just screwing around. But if you start to see something then that maybe you want to play around with, like maybe this is a neck with a head at the top of it, like this, I could just, drag this guy down like that, move this one up. And I'm just using my keys now because it's much faster to do it that way. And then I could come through here. It almost looks like a skydiver, something like that. Okay, so you get the idea. Before I get way out of hand here, if I hit the A key again, I can see what this will look like. So you don't want to play around with this so much that you get bogged down in too many details with it. You want to keep it loose because then you're going to go back in and sculpt on top of it. Okay. And likewise, under this adaptive skin, there's one called Use Classic Skinning. So if I click on that and hit A, you'll see this looks different. Okay. This takes the edges into account a bit more, and it looks a little more like the forms of the Z-spheres rather than the regular skinning. If we hit A here, almost just looks like it's stretched over these in a more, just in a little bit different way. Okay, so you can kind of click those buttons and play around with that and see what you might like to try. Okay, so okay, so what else can you do with these things? Each of these modes where you're moving and scaling and rotating, if you add additional keys to that, you can actually do other stuff. Okay, so if I take and hit the Alt key here, I can move the whole thing. Okay. Control will move not just that one sphere, but all these spheres connected to it. Okay, so I'm holding down Control and dragging this middle one. If I click on this one and drag it, kind of see how that goes. Okay, and that's again why you kind of call this an armature, because it acts as if these things are connected, kind of like an actual structure, that like a knee or a joint, things like that. Okay. So if I drag one in here, again, I'm going to scale that down a bit, and you'll see it kind of disappear in there. You have to be a little cautious about that because sometimes you'll get weird intersections in here where one is inside of another, and it'll start to look funny. As long as you hit the A key and it works and looks okay, you're fine. Sometimes you'll hit the A key and ZBrush will crash. So it's a good idea to save before you do some of this stuff. Okay, and you'll see this kind of gray area in here where it looks almost like and it's inverted. That will sometimes indicate to you that you have some things that are intersecting and might be causing some problems. All right. The other thing is when you click on these, you'll see these triangle lines. That tells you it's pointing towards the next Z-sphere that's connected. And that also means that this one is connected somewhere down in the middle here, like that. Okay. Right down in here. And that's the one that I would probably need to move out if I wanted to avoid any funkiness going on inside there. Okay, and see how I can grab that because I am on this really tiny draw size. It's pretty easy to grab that stuff. Okay, if you have a bigger draw size, you'll end up grabbing more than one thing oftentimes, and that's something you want to avoid. Okay, well, it's not going to hurt anything, except you will be frustrated because it may not do what you want it to do. Okay, so likewise, and I have a list of all these key commands in the description where you found this video. Okay, so you should download that so you can do some of these for yourself. But for instance, rotate, I can twist these things around, okay, like this, okay, and I could twist it the other way as well, you know, if I wanted to bend it differently, okay. So again, if you think back to when you made your fish and how you dragged out geometry and used Dynamesh and things like that, you can see how quickly you can make something, pretty straightforward here like this, without taking a ton of time to do it. Okay, and your assignment is a bug of some kind. I don't really care what kind of bug you do, as long as you kind of follow the rules of bugs, which is, look up their anatomy and see that, for instance, the biggest mistake people make with bugs is, I'm going to do this from the top view here. I'm just going to pretend this is a bug. No, I shouldn't do that, but that's wrong. Oh, how do you get rid of Z-spheres? Oh, that's something good to know. Someone in class mentally just asked me that. You hold down, you go to the draw tool and you hold down the option key and click on these and they will delete. Okay? All right, and that's, believe me, very useful because you will find yourself getting into trouble sometimes where things can get really kind of dicey. And that's how you get rid of stuff that you want to kind of start over with or do something different with. Okay, so again, not hard to do that. Okay. So I was going to tell you about what people do here. I started a spider. Okay, I was kind of playing around with this. I started a spider, and I'll put up a little time lapse of it later. But let me just show you in what I was doing with this here. Okay, so here's the beginning of my spider. I actually have some reference here. Okay. Oh, this is the thing I wanted you to look at to download. This has all the little details on stuff you do, or you can do with that. Okay. So that's there. So what I was doing is this, and let me just bring that up to the size. Where is it here? Oh well. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. This is that ProRef thing I told you about at some other point. Okay, so this is kind of what I was looking at, and this is how I made it. I just started with this middle guy here, okay, this thing, and I just kind of built around, and then I made a really little one here at the end, and I drew one out from that, and then just started building this guy off of that, okay, and then if I check it with that, it looks pretty okay, okay. So what I wanted to explain with spiders or any insects is that this big rear abdomen thing, legs don't go there. Okay, the legs all come out of this middle cephalothorax area. Okay, and remember I told you about how it can be weird to see my symmetry is a little off here. Like I said, it's not the end of the world, but I try to get it lined up before I put the legs in, because otherwise I have to kind of go back and move them around. Again, that's not a big deal. Remember, these things are organic, so who knows? It could have been in an accident or something and gotten one of its legs messed up. But here's what I'm talking about. So in order to draw a Z-sphere, you have to draw it on a existing Z-sphere. Okay, so you can't draw it in these middle areas like this, okay, with these little gray zones. You have to click on it first and turn it into another Z-sphere. So if I wanted to put a leg right here, I'd need to do that first. Then I could go to the side, and I want to get my symmetry in the right order here. Let's see what I've got here. Is that the one? No, that's wrong. I want X or a Z, I mean. Yeah, like that. Okay, so I would click and drag here like that. Okay, and you'll see my symmetry is off, so I didn't get it on both sides here. So I'm going to do it over here in the middle like that, okay? And what I do is I just kind of go through and quickly draw these things in like that. Let's say I've got one there, I got one there, and I've got one here. Okay, and that may not be quite right, but that's not a big deal because I'm just going to go in and make a little tiny one on top of this, like that, and that, and that. Okay, and then I'm going to just take the move tool. Because I've got two sitting right next to each other, I can just take these out and just drag them out. Okay, like so. And this is where it gets, really interesting because you can then, where are my other ones here? There it is. Like that, all right? All right. Now see, they are actually too high up on the body right now. Okay. And I'm going to just flip this around so I'm looking at it from, I guess, there's the front. Yeah, this way. Not bad. Let me turn my symmetry on here. F key. There we go. Okay, so I kind of wanted to get it lined up with my picture here. Okay, so if you take a look at this, again, I'm on the move tool, and if I just grab the end here, if I want this one to kind of start to look like that, I can just drag that up like so. This guy, I'm going to move over here, this guy down here, and then this guy, oops, way down. Oops, I missed it. There we go. Kind of hard to see where it is there. There it goes. Okay, way past the bottom of the leg there, or the bottom of the abdomen. Okay, something like that. Then you go in with your draw tool, and you just kind of look at the segments here, and I'm just going to say, I want one here, I want one here, I want one here. And it does it on both sides because I did have symmetry on there. Same deal here. And I'm sorry, this might be a little dull and boring, but you'll appreciate the end result because it is just so quick and easy to get stuff to happen. Okay, go back to my move brush. Okay, or my move tool. Sorry, I'm not used to. And see how you can very quickly start to turn these into the cropper shapes. Okay, like so. And I'll just move this one up. And then you'd go to the side view and you would start doing the same thing there, but you would be doing it in the up-down direction. So you would then have this nice flow of the geometry going where you want it to go. And the big trick is just making sure you're actually on the part you want to move. It's kind of hard to find. Okay. So then, remember I said those were too high up on the body. Then all you need to do, again with the move tool here, you can just take this thing and just drag it down. Okay, so you want to grab the one that's underneath there, like that, and just pull that guy down, because these things are all kind of coming out at the lower part of the insect or spider or whatever you got. Okay, and I got that one down here, like that. Okay, something like that. I'd probably redraw this one. This one right here should be closer to the front. Sadly, you can't just copy and paste them in the middle. I'll leave it for now, but then if I started to look at like a side view or something of my spider. Well, that's not really a side view, is it? Hell, I can just wing it. Doesn't really matter. There we go. Again, with the move brush. And here, I could do this again with the option key down and start to move more of those. I could also use rotate and try and move these guys, control here, like that, okay? Yeah. Like so. Okay, and then again, because I have this thing in the side view, then I can start to pull these down or up, depending on how my spider's legs are actually articulated. And here's where I play around with that a bit and keeping an eye on the actual ground plane here, because you'd want this thing to actually be walking on the ground. Looks like my symmetry isn't on, so whatever. You can see though that this can happen so quickly, and very, very fun in terms of making something happen that seems like it should be a much harder task, okay, than what we got here, like so. And then again, if I hit the A key, you can kind of see how I've got these nice little things in here. All that starts to work. Happy, happy, okay, like so. Hit the A key again. The other thing you can do with these guys is you can draw these things on. Oops. Again, my symmetry is... Oh, that's right. I needed to get back to X and get out of Z here. I think that's my issue, is it? Oh, I don't know anymore. It's gone. It's gone. All my symmetry's gone. It's okay. I do it for you guys. Okay, so there we go. You can kind of see how that's a little off. This one's bigger than that in there, and you can fix that by moving stuff around. Just turn symmetry off. Okay, like that. So in theory, you can take these guys like this, and you can grab it, okay, and move it inside, and it kind of pops out like that. And then in theory, if you hit the A key, then that's going to make holes in it. I've rarely gotten that to work right. That is something that I will play around with and see if I can make work. I don't know. I maybe need to make other things inside here to pull it into. I don't know. Let's see if that makes a difference, and if not, I'll just leave it alone. Yeah, see, it gets all kind of crushed in there, kind of weird. Never mind. Let's just say never mind. Or maybe I'd need to use that other kind of skinning, perhaps, to do that. Okay, so if I hit classic skinning with this, you'll see how these get a little more curvy. I don't really like that. I like it to be more angular, because insects are, tend to be that way. Okay, and then again, when I'm ready to actually put this into my scene and sculpt on it, what I want to do is click, actually make adaptive skin. Before I do that, I would turn this off. I would start to maybe play around with density here, which is essentially how it's going to react when you hit the A key here. Okay, you'll see how much smoother that is than the previous one. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then you can also adjust this resolution because it's basically going to use Dynamesh to turn it into a mesh. Okay, so when you get it the way you like, you just click Make Adaptive Skin, and then you can just click on, you don't want to be on the Z-sphere, you want to be on the one that says Skin Z-sphere. Okay, and there it is. And then you can go ahead and use all your regular tools with this, including Dynamesh if you want, or just work with your standard drawing stuff, okay, to play with the shapes, cut things into it, pull things out. Again, symmetry would be nice here if I had it. One thing that does sometimes work with symmetry is going to the deformation palette and clicking Unify. It makes everything look a little bit smaller, but that oftentimes will clean up any symmetry you've got issues with. Okay, so let's see what I've got here. Yeah, that helped. Okay. All right. Okay, so again, if I wanted to start to do something with this, like smooth this out, and then maybe take the damn standard tool or something like that and start to cut some little slices into it, for instance. Again, I don't really care if this is a real creature you make or bug that you make. What I do care about is that it looks like it could be real. Kind of like the fish. I'm much more interested in you getting the anatomy correct and things like that, simply because it's going to add more realism to your work, and it will be appreciated more by people who look at it. Okay, and that's, I think, always better for your portfolio, to have something that looks good. Okay, rather than something you have to kind of explain away as not being quite right. Okay, so again, I just maybe fill that up a little bit more on the bottom there. Just play around with some of this. Sometimes they have really hard hard shells and things like that. So you can kind of go from what I've kind of shown you here, and play around with this a bit, and just see where it leads you. It's a quick project. I do want you to composite it again, like you did with your fish, into an image in Photoshop, and it can be something from a game. You could make something really wacky. Anything you want to do with this is kind of okay. I really just want you to get comfortable with the idea of using ZSpheres to build out your model quickly, or a model quickly, I should say. It's not always something you'll want to use, but it would be malpractice for me not to show you how cool it is and how much you can do with it when you're actually making stuff inside of ZBrush. Okay, and that, I think, is where I'll just kind of leave this up to now and let you play around with it for a while. You've got 3 weeks on this, and then we'll move on to the final project. So time passes quickly. Okay, that's kind of it. And if at some point you want to start or change something on this, you can always go back to your actual ZSphere thing here. Hit the A key and start to noodle with it again. If you find something you don't like about it, you can then make another skin and put that in, and kind of go from there. Okay, so they're really flexible, really cool, and I hope you have fun with it. And please leave me questions in the tech area, okay, so everyone can see them. And as usual, I'm going to want to see your progress on this at least once a week, okay, until it's done. All right, that's it. Have fun.